Mr. Eggplant presents.
Hey guys, Tyler here. Thanks for checking out my video. And we are continuing with our Mythic Plus series. This is actually the highest level key that we've had on the channel thus far, which has been done this week. It was just on reset, I think it was like the 5th, on Tuesday, which is Siege of Boralus plus 11. So we are running this completely with our guild, and unfortunately, just a heads up, we don't time it, unfortunately. We had quite a few issues. Like for one, you're gonna see in the first fight, I've cut it up a bit. I actually DC'd when the boss is on me, so I missed out on some of the fight. We still managed to kill it though, so they carried me to greatness. Carry that hunter to greatness. Go figure. But we also had somebody get an urgent work phone call in the middle of it, so I ended up cutting that just before the third boss. But this was a great time. It was cool to have people from the guild. Like you just saw there, when I was recording this, I had a bit of an issue with FPS, and I've been having that in my streams as well. And it's just my internet. It's just nothing but hiccups. So I am trying to get my ISP to actually help me out, but you never know. They just want my money, so I just have to deal with it. But in the meantime, so this was with my guild. We are running with Glitchy is our tank, which is now dead. He is on his Guardian Druid. We have JB healing on his Resto Druid. We have our Havoc Demon Hunter Nerfo. We have Going to Get You, which is a Ret Paladin, and myself, which is a Marksman Hunter, obviously. And this was, like I said, done this week. So the affixes are fortified. They are, let me see here, I can't even read it. Fortified, teaming, and quaking. So I know I commonly refer to quaking as earthquaking, but yeah, I will probably say it sometime in this video, so please forgive me if I do. So this fight, or this dungeon in general, isn't really too hard. I think barring any of the issues we had with, DCs and just dumb deaths, I think we ended up having 17 deaths in this. A couple of them were lag related, or like me DCing, like that was a death. But like we just have too many people taking things to the face that they don't need to. I mean, very easily done this week. This is a good week for pushing, in my opinion. Some keys obviously are way harder than others, so don't get me wrong. But overall, like a Freehold and a Siege of Boralus, those are your prime candidates to be pushing keys should you be able to get one. So this is, like I said, the first. That's actually for a lot of these people in their group, other than JB and myself. This is their first 10 this season. So there was a learning curve for sure, and you are going to see that they are unsure of how to deal with the affix, which is the reaping affix for season 2, with all the ghosts every 20%. So as we're going through here, I'll try to kind of communicate various things for those marksman hunters out there, which, by the way, I do appreciate you guys checking this out. And I love doing these. It's always fun to come back and watch myself, and especially when I screw up, because it'll help me learn from that. So I do a lot of the pulling for the group. So like for example with my last week's video, if it's skittish, you need to be using your misdirect on cooldown. I will usually, on some of the farther pulls, I will make sure and pull the whole group for Glitch, who is our druid tank. We'll always want to make sure you're using your misdirect, and then also don't just burst on everything, especially without the misdirect. Because otherwise, bears have a really hard time of, keeping aggro. As Mr. Going there just saw that he bursted on one and about died for it. So we're at 18% as a group. I believe we get it on this one. I don't remember if this guy was worth 2% or not. But when we do make it, we move them up just past where JB is. So we just kind of hang out. So they're all coming from one area. Which, there they are. We get the 20%. So I make sure and drop the trap there to slow, because that's where they're wanting to move them to. And then I just sit there and we just go to town in AoE, because that's what we do best. Like I'm actually the lowest damage right now, so I will creep up there eventually. But we have a really good comp for cleaving just large masses of spirits. So on these, if you guys haven't done +10s yet, there is the Reaping Affix, like I said. So every 20%, all the ghosts from all the things you killed in that 20% will come back and attack you. A lot of them are casters, as you can see there. You want to make sure and interrupt those casts as much as possible. If you are the tank, you are constantly getting, or if you're just getting meleeed, whether you're the tank or not, you get a stacking magic. It's not a debuff, but a magic effect that lowers your health, and it just does, I think, excess damage, if I'm not mistaken. Like, eventually you can get to the point where you have 1 health. Like, they'll lower your health by 1,000%. Actually, our first one we did this last season, or this season, Nerfo, had 1 health, and it was pretty hilarious. So we're just moving up here to the first boss. As I said, I do unfortunately DC during this, but I didn't want to waste a good +11 key, because I'm really proud of my guild, because Mythic Plus is usually not our forte, and a lot of people, they don't get on to do Mythic Plus. So it was really refreshing for myself to be able to get this done early in the week, especially because most of the videos you guys watch on my channel I have recorded on Mondays, and I do those with a special Canadian Buddies group, as we commonly refer to them as. So we'll start working on this boss here, and it did get on JB first because it does pick range normally, so it's either going to be JB or myself. And the funny thing was, so look at him, he just runs him around this bomb, and he just is like, nah, I'm not gonna deal with that. So unfortunately he does die, but we do get him rezzed. And yeah, they for whatever reason was just like, I'm just not gonna go in a tight circle, I'm just gonna run around the bomb. So I did manage to disengage back and then die, and then I came back to this, which is super frustrating. But as you can see, they almost defeated the boss without me. Oh, they do defeat it without me. But, you know, it does help that, you know, I'm still second in damage, and I was dead there for a while. But it's down, and that wasn't very cool for the first boss, I know, but for those of you that are watching for Marksman Hunter, you want to make sure, and whenever he's focusing you, just to kite him around, it's really good to use your concussive shot on him, and if you're constantly using steady shot on him, you can continue to slow him. You can use your tar trap. Let's see, other ways you can slow him. You can you basically just run him around in circles, like use your disengage if you have to, especially if you have post haste, where it gives you that extra percentage health, or excuse me, the percentage movement speed. And then you can also use cheetah. And then, as I almost die there because I got pulled and then stunned with the trample, because that's a fun wombo combo, and we have a hard time with this first pack for whatever reason, because people aren't picking one thing. So maybe I should have been a better hunter and, you know, put a mark above its head, you know, hunter's mark maybe. I don't know. Just some things that I'm seeing now that I'm not sitting there going, why on earth did I do that? But also for the last boss, as soon as he's targeting you, you want to run him into the bombs. If you haven't done Siege of Boralus before, he takes a lot of extra damage, and in my group, I'm the one who runs around. I can't believe I get hit by that either. I'm the one who runs around with Bloodlust because I have my leech pet, my wolf, Silverfang. And so as soon as he runs over the bomb, you just pop the lust, and the DPS that are on him is going to do significantly more damage. And it's just a good spot to use your lust, because otherwise there's not a good spot. And it does stink, though, that we did have only one ranged, because normally the melee are going to be worried about the ads up front. So we're moving through here. We're at 31% for forces, and keep in mind this is teaming week, so forces will be different than the normal weeks. When you're going to get to the very end of this video, and we actually kind of prematurely kill the boss, and we're at like 95% for forces because we didn't pull them appropriately. So that's something that if you're going through, I hope that you will do better than we did. We didn't take into consideration the teaming. And one beautiful thing about being a hunter is that you can pull this group and you can stop the shooting, so you can save some time. What I should have done, however, is misdirected Glitch, then jumped on my mount, then ran down and shot them, so he would have the aggro. But I didn't do that, but I mean, it didn't really cost us either. So we're at 36% on enemy forces, so we need to be thinking about, and I call this out in our Discord chat all the time, whenever like we're getting close to another 20%, just to let other people know. Like if we're going to pull a pack and it's going to happen in between, we need to make sure and kill them down at the same time. That's usually the easiest way to deal with that.
Yeah. So you just pull.
And so you can hear JB telling him about if you pull or taunt the guy that is the skull, it will pull the whole group and not pull the stuff to the left. It's for whatever reason. This dungeon is terrible about that. So you saw when before the first boss, I had to just randomly start attacking some things. That was just because all that stuff will aggro on the healer. And for whatever reason, it just keeps you in combat. So if you pull that group like you just saw, it pulls everything, but then you don't have to worry about having to go back there and kill all the small little ads later on, which is nice. And the best thing about the affixes this week is that the quaking has nothing to do with us, because it does not stop our, as I about die there, it does not stop our casts, which is kind of cheap, but I'm forever grateful, because otherwise it would be kind of a harder affix. So we just continue to dodge this stuff just like normal. I mean, it's just Caesar Boralus. It's not too difficult. There's not a lot of stuff in here that really should kill you if you're on your toes. Just stay frosty, and if you can see here, we just hit the 40% mark, which I would have called out in the group, and we actually wanted to use the artillery to maybe, help kill them, because the artillery does a lot of damage, to just kind of get rid of those guys. And you want to make sure and not get hit by any of the stuff they put on the ground, because it does absolutely massive amounts of damage. So we'll take out the spotter here, that way we don't have to worry about all that junk anymore. And as the ghosts continue to file in, single file style, yeah, whenever they die, they drop that stuff on the ground, do not get hit by it. Like I said, it just does so much damage. But it's very easily dodgeable too, and it's very slow, so you'll see it on the ground, and you have like 1, 2, you obviously stop what you're doing and move, and you don't have to worry about it at all. Like for hunters, disengage back, you're fine. So I actually pull this group here because I normally do this for our group, and I didn't realize it. There were souls still coming. So for whatever reason, sometimes souls take forever and a half to actually get to your group. So you need to make sure and keep that in mind. I did obviously apologize to the groups. I didn't want that to happen. I double checked and double backed to make sure I wasn't screwing up any more than I already was. But just make sure and check that no more ghosts are coming. Another pull, it would be the last pull in Shrine of the Storms. They slowly kind of trickle in. They just randomly port in on +10 keys and above. And just something to keep an eye out for. Because especially if you're very close to timing key, you don't want to mess that up. So like I said, I do a lot of the pulling for the group, so you saw me pull that group there, and then we LOS them on one side or the other, and then I usually stand on the side opposite the group of mobs. For one reason, if the spotter puts something on me, I don't have to move it out of the melee, or I don't hit anybody else with it, and then so that way I can dodge the cannoneer really easily. Because you're going to find out on the boss, we have some people that aren't quite so good at dodging. We kind of have that going on in our guild. That's a normal thing, to where we're not the best dodgers in the world. We would not be good at dodgeball. But you saw me throw my tar trap down there, so that you can basically wipe out her entire ability of jumping away and doing massive amounts of damage if she is slowed. Which she'll just sit there and stand in the tar trap, which is still slowing her. So you, as a marksman hunter, that is a must to be putting that down there. So you just want to make sure and dodge all that. Nerfo did not dodge that. And then, since I'm out here, I usually stand away because I don't get hit by anything, so there's not a ton of damage going out. To where you just want to make sure and have the melee grab the cannon and then face it towards the deck there and blow her back off and send her back over here. So we lusted on this because you don't normally get the full amount of lust if you do it as soon as you get there. So we save it for the first full phase here, and that way can get as much damage on the boss as possible. We might have been able to kill her. Probably not. We would have been a little bit short if we had all of our DPS up, but, you know, I don't know that for sure. I would kind of like... this is actually a kind of a low pull for me, where I would normally be doing better than I am right now. I think overall in the dungeon I do better. But the way that my build is, which is the 3 Unerring Visions, 2 in the Rhythm, and 1 Focus Fire, I think it does really well. It's the best of both worlds. On Mythic Plus keys, it's great for trash, as long as you use your cooldowns correctly, and I've seemed to do that just fine. And then it's also great on single target for bosses, because, you know, even if it is a fortified week, such as this week, you still have to do damage to bosses, and bosses still hurt, especially on a +10 or above. So this build is great for single target, and it's great for cleave AoE as well. So she's almost down here. That way we can get Nerfo up and continue on through the dungeon. So we're trying to beat the... At this point, we could still beat the timer. Later on, like I said, just before we get in front of the boss, you can clearly see we weren't going to make the time anyway, and then JB ends up having a phone call from work, because he works at a children's hospital, so he can't not take his calls, which I applaud him for. So he's making the world a better place, one sick child at a time. So not only is he a healer in game, which they want me dead there clearly, but he also is you know, in modern medicine in real life. So it's apropos that he would be doing both. So normally this pack isn't here, but it is here on teaming weeks. Just because, you know, that happens. They have extra packs because that's what teaming's all about. So most packs in the dungeon are bigger in general, and then once in a while in dungeons they will just add more to the dungeon itself.
No, all right. Oh, all right.
So I'm like I said, I'm struggling. I got hit by 2 of these this run. I got hit by one at the very beginning, and then I got hit by this one. That is unacceptable. Hopefully you will learn from my example of don't be a bad hunter 101.
But you could, yes.
But as a marksman hunter, we are doing pretty well. So I'm excited to see if there's any changes for 8.1.5, which I did the same thing here where I go up and pull the spotters. They started shooting, so I made sure and turtled so I wouldn't take any of the damage. Or if I did, I took very little. I think I took like 1/3 of my health or so. But I foresee there'll be some changes in 8.1.5 and then into 8.2, which, by the way, you can easily outrange the Terror Roar on this as a ranged player. Not even just marksman, just ranged in general. I think it's only like a 5-yard radius around his body, so it's not too bad. But I foresee there'll be some changes. I don't know exactly what, and I haven't seen like patch notes or anything like that, obviously. But there's always some tweaks, whether, like for example, this last go through for 8.1, that was where we saw the Unerring Visions nerf, in air quotes nerf. It was technically nerf, but I mean they're still very viable, and you can still do great damage with Unerring Visions, and you can also do great damage without it. That's the best part. Like, I know a lot of people don't like the term build anymore because there's not really builds, but I still consider like choosing certain sets of Azerite to be a build in that line of thinking, to where you can easily run in the Rhythm and Focus Fire and with 1 surging shots and still do some super DPS. I have a couple of friends that run that build over the Unerring Visions build, and that is just fine by me. We're all about doing the most damage possible and carrying as marksman hunters, and you know, it's always fun when we can do that.
Just once we get 1 guy down, so if you can kill him even.
I'll make sure and trap the caster back there so we don't have to worry about him. And we are at 59%, so you're going to hear the call that we need to make sure and kill these guys even. I believe I switch back and forth between those two to make sure that they die fairly even, because we are going to be getting rushed here in just a second. It's always fun going back and watching these videos too, because it's kind of nice to just kind of chill and not be in like the hectic environment, and that way you can kind of learn from mistakes and you know, share these experiences with you guys. 'Cause maybe you're not somebody who does +10s, but you want to aspire to do +10s eventually. You know, this is a great way to do it, so you can kind of get some experience firsthand on what it would be like to have a marksman hunter in one of these groups. Especially too, where I know I've said it before in my videos where we haven't timed a +10 or better yet with any of the groups I've run, but we're still committed to doing one every week. Like we can 2 chest 9s fairly easy. We just can't get over that hump of a +10 on time. That's actually how, you know, we got the 11, because we +2 to a 9. Like we almost +3'd or 3 chested, you know, +3 to the key, a freehold 9. That's how we got here. And like just be confident in that you're going to go in there and you're going to finish the dungeon. That's really all you need to do. Like a +10 isn't too hard to get to. It's actually harder to get to it than it is to just do it. Like let's say you die 50 times, but if you get there and you get it done, you're going to be able to hopefully get some gear that you can use that are just below mythic quality gear, and that's a big deal for somebody that's like, let's say you're doing normal BOD, for example, an instant 410 plus piece, especially if you could get a weapon or a trinket, that sort of thing, is a big deal. And it also gives you the 625 Titan Residuum that will help you buy mythic quality Azerite pieces, which I am running. I have one. It's my chess piece. It's the chess piece out of Waycrest Manor. I've actually, I think I've bought 3 now. 3? Yeah, I've bought 2 helms and a chest. And I've only ended up using the chest. The helms were like the worst ones possible, which was terrible. Like it wasn't the stats or the traits that I wanted at all. In fact, one of them was super garbage, in my opinion, of course. Maybe other builds would value it more, for sure.
So is the giant.
But I was able to basically scrap those down, and then that would help me buy more pieces. So as it sits right now, the longest it takes me to get a random 415 Azerite piece is 3 weeks. In fact, it's probably going to be more like 2. Like every 2 weeks I can get one. Like I didn't get one this week, but I guarantee you I think as of recording this, I have 1,200, so I'll be able to buy one after this week. And you'll hear JB there. What was that? I didn't realize that the spittle that the Murloc does was that big of a range. I just had no idea and learned something new. And my dad always said that, you know, you're not living life right if you're not learning something new every day. So if you didn't know that, as in like the Murloc ability there, well, you're right with me, and we learned something new today. So this is to the point where we should have been pulling the extra stuff in this room right here to our left. We end up coming back. I think I'm actually going to cut that part out just because that's kind of boring after we complete the boss to you know, run all the way back. So I'll probably end up cutting that off. But we end up going back there, we pull that pack, and then we pull this one that's up to our left here. And that would give us 100% if you're looking for a ballpark way to get the numbers that you're looking for this week for teaming, at least in Siege of Boralus.
Trying to roar to stop some
so this is one of the meatier pulls in the dungeon. Actually, it might be the hardest. I think it might be, actually. I think this is the beefiest pull. Meaty, beefy, whatever you want to call it. We changed that adjective from week to week in our Dungeons and Mythic Plus group. I guess this pull's tough too. In fact, so on this one, you're gonna see here in just a second where we have to wait because we get, as soon as we beat this stuff, because you can see there, we're at 75% for forces. Then we get attacked by all the ghosts, and then Glitch somehow gets knocked back, and he gets knocked back over the rail that's right underneath my action bars right now, and pulls all that stuff, and he's just like, oh no, let me die. So in reality, if we were gonna really try to time it, which right now we're not close, we are going to fail the key. We already know that. We should have just pulled it. And had we have kind of mapped out, because we use the method dungeon tool to help map out what we're going to pull, had we have been a little bit more diligent with it, I think we would have had a little bit better results.
Unsure what corner we could.
So we've got 81%, so as you can see, the ghosts are rolling in. I make sure and use my misdirect on Glitch, the tank. And that big lost soul, he is not lost. I don't see how anybody could lose somebody that big. So I just cleaved off of him because that was going to be the easiest for me, and we wanted to get rid of those guys as soon as possible because they're going to be ones that throw down the big, you know, get out. Or see right there, like he's using the big ability, the purple ability. Yep, and there goes Glitch, as I was saying. Let me die, just let me die.
I didn't.
Oh, he'll run back in here. Probably should have been something that I ended up cutting a little bit, but you know, I don't want to cut these too much because I want to show you guys not just my successes but also my failures. Because yes, it was a success in the vein that, you know, we completed the key, and I don't want to discredit that at all. But you know, at the same time, you want to make sure, and I don't want you to be like, oh well, I always do perfect. I always do this. Like, you know, that happens. Like, life happens, as they say, and you learn from your own mistakes more than you probably do your own victories. And I mean, where's the fun in that if you guys all only ever see me do well? I mean, I would like to show you guys that, you know, you can be average and still do great. Like, you can still do everything you want to do in the game. Maybe not mythic content as in like mythic raids, but you can still be like an average player and still succeed. And I think that's at least a lot of people in my groups or in guild in general, they think that, oh, you have to be a 1%er to do this or this or this. No, you don't. Like, you can be an average player and still you know, reach the heights of mythic plus 10s or whatever your high is, so to speak. So at least I didn't get hit by that one this time. I try to stay away from the entire group, especially on pulls like this, to where I know that I'm not going to be taking a lot of damage outside getting hit. And if I don't get hit, I'm fine. So there was the cut there for making sure like little kids weren't dying from JB, you know, not answering his phone for work. But that's one thing, like I was saying earlier, that's great, especially for somebody like Glitch, who doesn't have an AoE taunt or pull ability, to where I can just immediately misdirect to him, go pull the packs, and then we're good to go. And especially if I'm popping a cooldown just before, like a true shot, especially if I was just going to be standing there, because you wouldn't want to pop your true shot and then run away and waste it. That aggro isn't going anywhere.
This fucking venom, man. Shit hurts.
I know.
So unfortunately, the boss is padding over to the left right now, right next to that stuff. So I'll go ahead and misdirect to him, and then I'll let him get away just a little bit more, and then we'll do the AoE pull. Oh, and the best thing is, so we did just miss our timer there, which stinks, but we'll use that 20% buff to our advantage. And I'm really glad that that Blizzard put that in there, just because whenever I would try to pug some keys, if they saw that they weren't going to finish the key, they would immediately just leave, and that would just essentially kill the key, which is super toxic behavior, and I hope people would stop doing that. But you know, people still will do it, of course. So that was something that I'm really glad that they added to the game.
Is that me by proximity?
Probably.
Because especially with our groups, our goal is to just complete it on time. Yeah, I would love to have my Raider IO up, because I think it's only like at 860 or something. But you know, I'm just here about, you know, getting gear and getting hit by those stupid horse riders. I'm very good at that, apparently.
I'm just so used to it being a demon or anything. Like, oh yeah, I go through walls.
Oh yeah, they're also talking about my rapid fire, because they changed that for PvP and arena, to where it can, if you've started casting on, for example, that sniper, and he runs past the wall, it'll continue to cast and it won't stop the cast, because I know that people were having a lot of problems with that. early on, especially in arena for like pillar hopping and pillar humping, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We'll just I don't know. I actually thought we were going to reset this boss here, and we didn't end up doing that.
Yeah, that's why I gotta turn this one.
So the boss here, pretty tank and spank for the most part. Like, this is one of my more favorite bosses, I think, in the expansion thus far. My favorite dungeon, of course.
I know they've changed it.
I keep flipping back and forth on what I thought my my favorite dungeon was. This one's up there though, and this is one of the better bosses in my opinion. Even though it is pretty bare bones, it's not quite patchwork, but it's like patchwork with 2 abilities. And as a ranged player, you can pretty much just kind of AFK and just dodge. Especially if you have an immunity, which you're going to see me use here in just a second, or I can be super lazy and just kind of hang out here.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, see, I don't have to worry about boss positioning either, where they're standing on ice that apparently they couldn't see. I don't know, all I'm doing is just standing out here doing damage. But see, this is the same build that was doing 40k on trash, that is also doing 17k on the boss. So there, just make sure and immune it with the turtle, and then immediately get rid of that with the cancel aura macro. That way you can just cancel the turtle right off, so you don't have to, because you know you can't attack when you have it up. So it's really easy to do. You get the use out of it, and then back to slaying the boss.
I actually put Jojo together after I died.
All right, so Hadal is down, and then that means that Bonsomni is right around the corner here. So we'll make sure and get the buff. If you have not seen the buff before, it gives you 20% increased damage and 20% healing. And then it also, once you leave, gives you a 2-hour debuff where you cannot get it again. So you can see the Bonsomni looking face there. And you're probably wondering why the boss wasn't there. So Glitch got hit by the random water that he throws down there. And it used his brambles, as then I'm going to get just completely owned here almost. Very close. Nerfo got owned in my place, as he came shooting through there, and he's got to watch that, because, yeah, he ran right into some other water. But it's really easy to just strafe through here. But his brambles had actually, because it reflects damage, so then it reflected it back on the boss, pulled the boss, wiped us. So that was kind of pretty much how our dungeon run was going.
Y'all still riding the night?
But on this particular fight, I actually really like this one too. Maybe this one's one of my favorite dungeons. I would say this one's probably number 2. Freehold might be number 1. That'll probably change tomorrow though. So I pretty much stay on the gripping terrors, so I can just burst those down as soon as possible. If this was a tyrannical week, this is definitely something you couldn't do. Unless you have some pretty high DPS, just because of the amount of damage needed and the fact that you would get overrun fairly quickly. So I will switch back and forth from the gripping terror to the slammer, is what we call it, at least in our runs. Because not everybody understands gripping means, you know, gripping things, and the other one is not gripping. I don't know. Sometimes people just will struggle with that. I don't know what to tell you. But I'm the one who gets in the cannon. I'm also the one, like I said earlier, that uses the lust. So on the last, so I'll shoot the cannon there, jump out, make sure you don't get hit by that, and then I just lust as soon as we get to the last platform. So the quaking there kind of what got us into a bit of trouble there, and then I get attacked by the boss. That was fun. I didn't die though, at least. So here I will pull the pet out, and we'll just go to town on the gripping terror. So they're over there worrying about the other terror, which they probably should have been working on this one, but I managed to pretty much you know, take it out myself. That's like I said, the one beauty about this build is it's great for AoE and it's great for single target. And I'm super lazy, and I don't like to switch Azerite, and I don't like to switch, you know, talents, that sort of thing. So it's perfect for me.
I might get hit. fish.
So like I said earlier, I think I will probably go ahead and just cut this off. I don't believe I get anything out of this dungeon. In fact, I just went and looked, and I do not get anything out of this dungeon. Just the lowly title core. But we can just pop the boss there. We are still at the 5% needed. We do go and pull those packs I just showed you guys earlier as we were walking up. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. This one was a little bit longer, but it was a plus 11. Hopefully one day we will be able to start pushing keys a little bit higher. My goal is to get a 15 this season. We weren't quite able to do it last season, but I'm hoping this season will change that. So I appreciate you guys watching, and definitely if you guys like vintage video games as well, I do have a Twitch channel. It's just twitch.tv/Mr. Eggplant. I have currently Banjo Tooie going on over there. I have a bunch of Nintendo 64 games, and I hope you guys would, consider following me over there. And if you haven't subscribed to me here on YouTube, definitely do that. That way you're always in the know when I do post a new video. And I think that's all I have to plug, guys. So until my next live stream or video, I'll see you guys later.